Find out who you are. Although Yanjung was a little afraid of Charlie's strength, when he heard this, his face was still full of disdain. He looked at Charlie and sarcastically said, I have already found out your details a long time ago. Aren't you just the live-in son-in-law of the Orus Hills Wilson family? It's a poor family in a small city. What is it about you? Yes. Yangang immediately said coldly, you have to figure it out. Pull out all the big families in Orus Hill and add them together. It's less than half of our GU family. Yanggang's words are somewhat arrogant and exaggerated, but fundamentally speaking, there is nothing wrong with his words. Compared with Eastcliff, Orus Hill is indeed not a big city. Moreover, the Song family, Orus Hill's first family, has assets of more than 100 billion, which are far from the GU family. Therefore, Philip has the confidence to say such arrogant words just now. At this time, Charlie smiled calmly and asked, you didn't think about it. How could I have met Uncle if I were just the son-in-law of a poor family in a small city? Philip nodded, looked at his 2 younger brothers and 2 nephews playfully, and smiled. Yanjung coldly snorted, do you think don't know what you do? Aren't you just a damn liar who looks at feng shui? As he said, Yanjung was full of disdain. I know, you did fool a few local turtles in Orus Hill, but you know, this is the FC King Eastcliff, not Orus Hill. This is where the dragon and the tiger are really hidden. If you can eat well in Orus Hill, you think you can eat well in Eastcliff? There are many people here, and there are as many dragons and phoenixes as the Crucian carp that crosses the river. An old fortune-telling man will drop down from the walls of the Eastcliff. I am afraid he is better than you. Charlie nodded and sighed. Oh, what you said really gave me the initiation. If you weren't talking about the difference between Orus Hill and Eastcliff, I almost forgot about it. I am not from Orus Hill at all. I am actually from Eastcliff. What? Yanjung frowned. Are you from Eastcliff? Yeah. Charlie smiled and nodded, patted his chest, and said, I am a native of Eastcliff. I left Eastcliff to Orus Hill when I was 8. When Yanjung heard this, he immediately sneered, could it be that you had no foundation in Eastcliff before you were 8? You left Eastcliff at the age of 8, and now you come back after such a long time. You dare to run wild in front of me? Philip smiled and asked him, my second child, don't you see that Charlie is somewhat familiar? Don't you think he looks like someone? Yanjung squinted his eyes to look at Charlie carefully, and said, does this kid have anything special? He's just plain and ordinary, not as handsome as when I was young. Philip laughed out loud. Second, I didn't expect you to be under my protection. After so many years of pampering you, your whole person will become more and more regressive. It's a waste of more than 40 years. Yanjung was startled, and subconsciously asked, what do you mean? You don't have to tell me about it here, just say what you want. Philip nodded. Okay. Then I'll speak straight. After all, Philip stood up and said in a haughty tone, do you remember that I had an elder brother who became a legend, and the GU family can have today, thanks to his promotion all the way more than 10 or 20 years ago? Even when the old master was alive, he was a guest of honor and respected him. At that time, you were a dude with a half bottle of water. The old master would not allow you to have much contact with my eldest brother, for fear that you would lose the GU family's face in front of him. What is my eldest brother's surname? Yanjung had forgotten Charlie's father for many years. After all, the deceased has passed away, and many relatives may not be able to remember the deceased for more than 10 years, let alone Yanjung and Charlie, as father with no friendship. Back then, Yanjung just watched his elder brother worship the brightest star of the Wade family, and he was jealous, but after the death of Charlie's father, he gradually forgot about it. However, now that the eldest brother was so directly named, he immediately thought of the handsome and generous figure. Hearing the last question of the eldest brother, he subconsciously said, I remember him, he was the Wade family's best. Speaking of this, his whole body was instantly shocked, his eyes widened to the extreme, staring at Charlie forever. At this moment, 2 figures that would have been 20 years apart overlapped in his mind. Only then did he realize that the vigorous young man in front of him looked so much like that vigorous young man back then. Reminiscent of Mr. Wade, and his relationship with his elder brother so close, he immediately seemed to be struck by thunder, trembling and pointing at Charlie, and asked Philip in a trembling voice, "Big brother, is he the son of brother Chang Ying, the second master of the Wade family?" The second master of the Wade family, he was talking about Charlie's father, Chang Ying. The word Chang Ying is taken from the classic poem of a great man. Today Chang Ying is in hand. When will the dragon be bound? And Chang Ying's implication is, Wade family has a son, can tie the beast named Kanglong. And he was the second child of the Wade family heirs. Although he was not the eldest son, his ability was the strongest of the Wade family. At a young age, he could plan tactics and win 1,000 miles in the market. Under his leadership, the Wade family had even fought back and forth with the Rothschild family in Europe and the United States, which has a history of hundreds of years, and even made the other party suffer a compromise in the end. In those days, countless rich second generations of Eastcliff regarded him as their idol in life. Countless rich generations looked at him with grief and sighed like Chang Ying had a child. Countless wealthy daughters admired him so much that they regarded him as the best candidate for the wishful man. When you marry Chang Ying, this is the most familiar sentence in the circle of Eastcliff celebrities. I think back then, there were all good women seeking great families, but who has ever seen the grand occasion of good men seeking great families?